I think we need a Metaverse minute on this show.
I think we need a Metaverse minute on this show.
I think we need an updated intro for the Metaverse, so maybe we can work on that. Okay.
Can't get better than that.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Dubai has a Metaverse strategy. The city wants to attract 1,000 Web3 firms and create 40,000 virtual jobs by 2030. So I brought this story up because I've been to Dubai a few times, spanning many years, and every time I go there, they're just so much more technologically focused. So the last time I was there, I went to the Museum of the Future. It had just opened, and they had a really heavy focus on telling visitors to Dubai about how advanced they are in thinking about AI and AR and how that might integrate into cities and the everyday lives of people who live in big cities like Dubai. Now they're focusing on the Metaverse, and they think that 1,000 Web3 firms are going to be itching to live in Dubai and be at the forefront of technology in the Middle East. Will, I see you nodding along there. What do you think of the strategy? Are we going to see other cities, maybe in the US, come up with their own Metaverse strategies?
Well, we've seen a lot of people roll out their Metaverse strategies, right? It's definitely a marketing buzzword right now. And I'm wondering if it's going to be around in a year or so. If crypto bear markets continue, I imagine that we'll probably put that one in the closet for a little bit. That being said, 40,000 virtual jobs is interesting. Hopefully those are real jobs and not just like virtual food and all fake. It seems they've made about 7,000 jobs to date using just AR or VR technology, which is notable, right? Like people need those jobs, and those seem to be important jobs going forward. Facebook has completely rebranded around it to Meta, just based on the idea that everyone is going to be moving into virtual reality for both their social interactions, their jobs, for fun. Lots of things to do there, of course. So right now they're just focused on building it. My question for this is more about like the practicalities of a top-down system. This came from the head of the government itself, which is like, okay, this is your great strategy, but how are you guys going to implement this? A lot of times these things don't go very well. If it's from top down, bottom up stuff seems to work a little bit better. That's the whole point of Bitcoin, very bottom up approach, and it's done tremendously well. These top down projects, kind of iffy, right? Like a lot of people actually don't think Facebook can pull off this whole stunt to like change their image and change their product lineup because they're so big, because they're so corporate. And so this just seems to be that on a whole other scale. Wendy, I'll throw it up to you.
Like you said, I hope that these are actual real jobs, but I think it's also important to pay attention what other countries are doing, especially when it's Metaverse and they're trying to expand technologically. That's very, very important. I wish that the United States would follow suit, and I wish that we would just get some sort of like gray regulation put out so that we can continue to build, because I think that having some sort of Metaverse jobs or Metaverse land, like a place in the United States where they're just focused on building Metaverse stuff, it could be really good for our economy. But that's just my personal opinion, and I don't think that the public servants or the ivory towers care about what I have to say, but that's that.
We do.
Wendy,
we do.
I want to add to that. When I thought about this, I thought, a lot of foreigners move to Dubai to work in Dubai for the tax situation, right? And so these Metaverse jobs will be virtual jobs. Potentially anyone can work a virtual job, especially if you're able to hide your IP address and say, you're anywhere in the world. What kind of implication are Metaverse jobs going to have for taxes and regulation? And I think that the regulators' minds are about to blow if this actually takes off. But David, I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, I think that the top-down and the tax thing are very closely related. I mean, Dubai is not exactly known as a hotbed for technology education, and that ultimately is where this kind of thing comes from, is being able to have a community that is local, that is grounded. And this like virtualization, tax-based competition for business, ultimately it becomes less about creating anything and more about like creating these top-down incentives to draw things from other places. We see it within the United States all the time, tax incentives for, let's say, Walmart to move into some town, and ultimately it is just not a sustainable strategy to try and use these macroeconomic levers to build an industry locally. And the fact that they're talking about doing this at a remote way, even more so, just sort of distances it from any kind of grounded reality where you would have an actual like thriving community that is working together to create this stuff. And it becomes more about like moving numbers around on a spreadsheet, because theoretically there's a company based here, even though its actual operational headquarters is like 1,000 miles away. I mean, that's the kind of setup that I think in reality we're talking about here with a program like this. So I'll just pour some cold water on it right here at the end. And I think we're close to wrapping up, Jen.
We're going to wrap it up. I think the final thought of today's show was do the right thing. Don't do dodgy stuff, because eventually it will come to light and you will look like a bad person.